Welcome to AP Macroeconomics. My name is Tim Rodman, and I thank you for joining me for the pseudo back to school night. We used to have a back to school night in January, and when we decided no longer to do that, I thought a video might be a great way to connect me with parents of students that are in my spring AP Macroeconomics course, to introduce myself, the course, the objectives, the expectations, and obviously contact information so that if you have any questions, concerns, as we move forward throughout the semester, you can reach out to me. Here is my contact information. I do encourage you to reach out, email me with comments, questions, feedback, concerns, anything that you may see along the way that is of concern to you. I definitely want your child to be successful in this course, and anything that I can know that will help me in doing that, I greatly appreciate. In terms of the course overall, tonight I just want to give you an expectations viewpoint, kind of look at some of the objectives and kind of how we conduct the AP Macroeconomics course. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. In the fall, we had our Advanced Placement Microeconomics course, in which we looked at the individual decision making of consumers and producers, how this may affect product markets, and how factor markets are utilized in this microeconomic decision making, as well as the role of government in terms of trying to promote equity and efficiency. And we're doing all of that through the lens of this idea of synthesizing economic details and analysis of these concepts, and really trying to articulate that through graphical models that really demonstrate these economic concepts. And so we do something similar in macro, in the Advanced Placement Macroeconomics course in the spring, looking at this in terms of the economic systems as a whole. We know that the microeconomic individual decision making is really where businesses make decisions to hire or fire, and how those decisions add up to an economic system as a whole is really what we're looking at in macroeconomics. So we take a much broader point of view in looking at this from a national point of view, and different nations, mainly focused on the United States, but from time to time we'll pull in data and analysis from other nations where the concepts are really applicable and make a lot of sense in terms of helping students better understand them. So this is everything from national income and looking at stabilization policies, what performance measures are in place. We look at it from one of the key questions, one of the essential questions for the course is, how do we measure the health of an economy? And again, we do this all through economic questioning and analysis, using graphical models to get students to look at these economic concepts and to really put them into their own words in explaining the concept, how it applies to particular economic systems today, and even how it can be used in the future. Our ultimate goal is obviously May 10th, 2017. We want them to get college credit for the course. In addition, we also have review time that we focus on not just macro, but also review for the micro exam as well, which is coming up that same week. Macro on Wednesday and the micro exam on Friday. So we want students to obviously get college credit for the course in addition to being successful in the course itself. This is a more granular look at some of the course outlines. So we start looking at the basic concepts of macroeconomics, very similar to microeconomics, looking at supply and demand, scarcity and choice, and that sort of thing. But then we also will start applying it to, how does this impact, instead of business decisions, how does this impact economic decisions made by a nation or by nations in terms of how they work together and how societies function economically. We then look at the measures of that performance, looking at things like GDP and national accounts and national income, and how do we measure inflation using CPI and the producer price index, and really look at these measurements of performance. And then we apply them to the aggregate supply, aggregate demand model in Unit 3, looking at national income and price. How do we use monetary and fiscal policy to stabilize the economy, and how do we use these in the short run in order to address these issues? And then we look at the financial sector from a fiscal policy point of view, looking at things like the Laffer curve and expansionary and contractionary policies. proportional and progressive taxes. How do we value money and money demand? What does the loanable funds market look like for a macroeconomy, and how do we use monetary policies in what we call Fed Fridays to look at the economy in terms of, well, what should the Fed do? What should the Federal Reserve do in terms of interest rates and so forth? So that's where we kind of start out the semester. And then in marking period 4, we'll look at this units 5, 6, and 7 in terms of inflation, unemployment. What stabilization policies do we put in place to help an economy that may be hurting or in recessionary times, or has inflation or even disinflation for that matter. Then we look at long run growth in Unit 6. We look at productivity in terms of GDP per capita and what is the real GDP versus the growth that we're trying to take a look at. And then we close it out with international trade. Um, how do the decision-making processes that we have in place for an economy impact other markets in terms of balance of payments, foreign exchange, international trade, loanable funds, and the value of the dollar in relation to other currencies like the yen. So we do take a pretty deep dive on those, and we'll look again at comparative advantage as we did in micro. In terms of expectations, there is a significant amount of reading on this. We do have a simulation tool that we use called Aplia, which students in micro may have been familiar with. It is a great way for them to kind of parse out the chapter and read through pieces of the chapter and do simulations along with it. It is a required homework assignment that students will do chapter by chapter, and pretty prescriptive with that. They'll have a take-home quiz of study questions and problems and exercises that they'll do for each chapter. There's an Aplia simulation they'll do for each chapter, and then we'll review those things and quiz on each chapter unless we have a unit test. The notes that they take will obviously help them. The notes they take in class. I will post chapter notes for each chapter on Google Classroom in a PDF file, and other resources, either links to other resources or simulations, other videos that are out there related to the topics. All of that will be posted on Google Classroom. And then we also use Edmodo for kind of the social media collaborative policy discussions and review sessions for students to collaborate. I highly encourage students to get into study groups, to work together in study groups, and to use Edmodo. One of the ways that I do that in terms of fostering that collaboration is in what I call an Edmodo study-a-thon. Right before a unit test or an exam or the AP exam, we'll have Edmodo study-a-thons, and students will be required to post 2 higher order thinking questions, evaluative types of questions, and also answer 2 other students' higher order thinking questions. And if they had post additional questions or answer additional questions, they'll win points for their teams. We do a team-based competition each marking period in which they'll be competing in team challenges and other class competitions for points. At the end of the marking period, students will get, the winning team will get a gift card to a restaurant of their choosing. And it's all designed to really foster collaboration and teamwork to get students to work together to help answer each other's questions and to approach each other when they may not be as comfortable approaching me about that content. Although I do encourage it, and I hope that they will, I do have lunch and learn hours each weekday in my classroom in room 110. And if I'm not in there, it'll be noted on the door. But those are usually the exceptions to that rule. Otherwise, they'll find me in there, and I help lots of students this way in terms of really being able to address concepts and concerns, questions they have about a concept they may not quite understand. This is a great opportunity for them to get those questions answered, and I really encourage you to encourage them to come in for lunch and learn. It's a really great tool for them. In terms of my expectations, I have only one rule in this class, and that is that we respect everyone and everything at all times. We are going to have different policy discussions about macroeconomic issues in which students aren't going to agree, and that's okay. We attack ideas, we don't attack people, and we can respectfully disagree with others about those ideas. But at the end of the day, we all come together to be respectful of that, and they should also be prepared to work each day. I teach bell to bell. So the activities in the class may be varied from day to day in terms of what we are doing, but they should be prepared to work when they arrive, having their materials out ready to go when the bell rings, and work up until the bell. And again, if they have questions after the period is over, I do have a remind service that I'll send out what the homework is. I'll also post that on Google Classroom, and you can sign up for both of those. I'll post instructions on Edline that'll have those in terms of how parents and students both can sign up for those services. But basically, if they have additional questions about concepts or content that they're studying, they can feel free to email me. Again, going back to the contact information, and also posting a question on Edmodo to the Edmodo classroom. Those are two great ways to reach out to me, and chances are if they have that question, somebody else probably does too. So I encourage them to reach out with those questions. We do use cell phones and Chromebooks and other devices electronically in class. I just ask that students be digitally responsible. It should be related to the content. So if you're on your cell phone and I can clearly see it's not related, we're not doing anything with it right now, then that's probably not the best time for you to be on it, and we'll have that conversation. But I just ask that they be digitally responsible with that. Otherwise, we do lots of different things with them. We'll vote on them. We'll conduct discussions online with electronic devices. We'll hold Kahoot games for reviewing content, or even introducing new content on the devices. And so it is a really great way to incorporate our learning, and we use all tools necessary and available in order to help with that. I do ask the students work together. I mentioned the study groups and the teams are really trying to foster collaboration here. And as I mentioned, the teams that they're on, if down the lower right-hand corner here, you'll see that I post the team standings each week, basically which team's in first, second, third, and they'll have an opportunity to earn points throughout the week on team challenges and class competitions, graphing exercises that will help them in terms of earning points and seeing how their team moves up the ranks. The last thing here is that I just ask that students and parents be proactive, checking Edline for grades and communicating with me regularly if you have concerns, questions, comments, other feedback, or you need more information. I'm here to help, and I hope that we can work together in terms of doing that. In terms of what you can do to reach out to your child about the course, regularly attending Lunch and Learn, as I mentioned, having regular homework times is also beneficial. Dialoguing with them about their progress and encouraging them to work with study groups and study partners is also beneficial. Use the Edmodo tool, as I mentioned, in order to post questions and get questions answered. And then also to keep the lines of communication open. That is really what is key. So I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for attending our pseudo back to school night. Here's my contact information once again. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I hope we have a great semester. Thanks so much.